Good afternoon, Western Washington, and happy Thursday. I'm Matthew Fab with Western Washington Weather, and today we're going to take a look at the forecast for the next few days, including the widespread thunderstorm potential and a look at what's going on with all of the fires and smoke. So starting with the satellite image right now, you can see the Wildcat fire right in here near Mount Rainier is starting to pick up a bit with some of this instability and clouds and stuff moving through. Got other fire plumes there. The Sugarloaf fire near Lake Chelan and Leavenworth there, and then the complex of fires in northeast Washington bringing some plumes as well, and some smoke coming down out of Canada with some plumes over British Columbia as well, plus these clouds moving through the area and thunderstorms in eastern Oregon. This activity will be moving into eastern parts of the Cascades, parts of eastern Washington, and then potentially western Washington over the next few days. So let's take a look at that. But first, before we get there, just wanted to point this out. I'll put a link to this at the end of the video. I was out at the Wildcat fire yesterday in the evening, and just look at some of this fire activity. You can watch the whole video on the channel here. I'll put a link to it at the end of this video. Really interesting stuff, really crazy to be out there and see all the smoke. So check that out after you watch this video. Taking a look at our heat alerts here, and you can see if we look at western Washington, we've got the red flag warnings in effect for the Cascades due to that extreme fire danger for some parts of the area and the fact that we have fires that are already going that are quite big. And then we have the heat advisory in effect through this afternoon for the eastern lowlands with another warm day expected. This may continue into tomorrow. Actually, looks like they've canceled it there, but red flag warning in effect through this evening. Now taking a look here at the watch duty map. Apologies for that taking a second to load. As you can see, it's loading a lot of information right now. Bear Gulch fire up to nearly 10,000 acres, 9,807. Wildcat fire here near Mount Rainier grew by 3,000 acres in the last 24 hours, up to 5,542 acres. And then the Sugarloaf fire here near Leavenworth up to 6,200 acres. Up in Whatcom County, the Perry fire on Ross Lake up to 1,300 acres. Take a look at some of these signatures of big fires in British Columbia just to the north of Whatcom County there. And then northeast Washington, you got multiple fires over 1,000 acres. Right here near the Black Hawk Mountain fire is the Crown Creek fire at 10,700 acres, and then the Rattlesnake fire at 7,700 acres. So a lot of stuff going on up here too. And although this is not western Washington, the smoke up here definitely impacts what you're seeing in the skies across the region. So taking a look at the overall pattern here on the European model, the ridging continues as we go into Thursday and Friday, but we have this upper level low off the California coast drifting closer, providing some of that energy and that flow for the thunderstorms along the Cascades, and then eventually potentially in the lowlands going into Saturday and Sunday. And you can see how that kind of hangs out. And then as we go into this next week, this low moves on shore. It cools us down, pushes the ridge away, and we have a few more troughs coming in through next week. And then we may get a little bit more ridging, but then more troughing coming in. So we may remain a little bit cooler. We may be able to damp down some of these fires, may not put them out completely, but we may be able to get a handle on them a little bit more. So we have to watch very closely to see what this pattern is over the next week or so here and how much rain it could potentially bring. But as they say, it gets worse before it gets better, and I think that is definitely what's going to happen here. You can see Thursday afternoon here, chance of lightning across the Cascades going into the evening, and you can see that lingers all the way toward 11 p.m. there. And then take a look at Friday, just a much higher chance of lightning strikes across the Cascades, especially from the crest of the Cascades a little bit eastward, where we already have a lot of fires burning. These are going to be dry thunderstorms, and we're going to have a chance for more fires across the region with lightning strikes starting more, just like it started all these fires over the last couple weeks. This chance is happening yet again, especially in Oregon and then the Washington Cascades. So we have to watch very carefully to see if we get new starts across the region. Then going into Saturday morning, we have a little bit of thunderstorm activity over parts of western Washington in Lewis County and Skamania and Cowlitz counties there, and some of this activity may be moving up toward Tacoma and Puyallup and parts of Pierce County there. Then we get some more of that scattered thunderstorm activity, especially southwest parts of western Washington, and then along the Cascades. Look, as we go into Saturday evening, just a huge amount of potential lightning across especially the southern and central Cascades and then parts of eastern Oregon. So there could just be a ton of new fires starting with this precipitation. And then you see these storms down here over the Oregon coast. These move up and sort of move into parts of western Washington. This part of the forecast is a bit more uncertain, and we should definitely wait to see what the high resolution forecasts say about this over the next couple days. But this could be some thunderstorms moving through Portland and Centralia, Chehalis, Kelso, maybe up toward Olympia and Tacoma. We'll see, and then parts of the Washington coast as well into the evening and into Saturday or Sunday morning there. And then going through the day Sunday, another chance of thunderstorms from the Cascades eastward across parts of eastern Washington, bringing more chances for fire starts. So definitely a few days of potentially significant thunderstorm activity. We have to watch it very closely to see how it plays out, especially that lowland stuff going on this weekend, as that is very unpredictable at times. Taking a look at total precipitation, if we go through Friday night, you can see that our totals are very, very small. You're looking at like 1/10 of an inch total with any Thursday and Friday thunderstorms, which means that anything that strikes has a potential to start fires just because you're barely getting any rain at all. And then going through this weekend, if we fast forward through Saturday and Sunday and to about Monday morning there, some of these thunderstorms moving up across the Cascades could bring up to 1/2 inch of rain. And while that is very good and will hopefully bring down the fires a little bit and prevent some of that extreme fire behavior we've seen over the last couple days, it's not going to put them out. And just so we can recall why, remember back in mid-August we had that atmospheric river that brought 2 inches of rain to the Bear Gulch fire there on the Olympic Peninsula, and it still flared back up again and has burned multiple thousands of acres since then. So by no means is 1/3 of an inch to 1/2 inch of rain going to put out these fires entirely. And that's why we really need to watch the pattern from this weekend onward to see what happens after we get all these additional thunderstorms and see if we're going to stay cooler and those potential new lightning starts aren't going to do anything, or if we warm back up a little bit and dry out some more and these new lightning starts get a chance to flare up. So we have to watch very, very closely to see what happens here. Taking a look at smoke and air quality now, we'll look at this for a bit here. The purple air map shows moderate air quality across most of western Washington and unhealthy for sensitive groups there around Linden and the Canadian border up there, and then good air quality along the northern waters here, basically from Bainbridge Island up toward Everett and north up through Whidbey Island, along the Strait of Juan de Fuca, San Juan's, and then of course on the coast. But the rest of the state is not looking too good. You can see here that most of eastern Washington in the unhealthy for sensitive groups categories, which is orange, to just plain unhealthy, which is red, and then the purple that you're seeing around Grand Coulee and Colville and Yakima, where you're getting some inversions kind of keeping the smoke in, that is the very unhealthy category. So that is really not good to see for some of these areas, especially big populated areas there like Yakima, Grand Coulee, Colville. You can see just where some of that smoke is hanging out, and eastern Washington's really going to have a rough go of it here over the next few days in terms of how much smoke is going to be coming off the fires in the Cascades, in northeast Washington, and in Canada. And that smoke, we're going to be seeing it aloft but in western Washington, but we're not going to have as much at the surface. So going through these forecasts for smoke aloft through this evening, you see potential smoke plume off the Wildcat fire, more smoke plumes across eastern Washington and Canada. This smoke kind of hangs out across the area as we go into Thursday night, into Friday morning. You can see it clears out a little bit for parts of western Washington, but as we go into Friday, a lot of it swings back in with more smoke plumes off the fires. And then as we go into Friday night, that smoke starts to push back into western Washington aloft there, and then by Saturday morning, we have just extremely heavy smoke aloft. It'll just look like a lot of clouds. You'll probably barely be able to see the glow of the sun through this type of smoke, and this just hangs out through the day Sunday or Saturday there and starts to push a little bit northward, but you still have the fires producing more smoke as you go through midday Saturday. Only the coast really will remain a little bit clearer where you'll be able to see the sun if it is indeed sunny out there. But again, this is all aloft, and it looks like, of course, a ton of smoke because it is, but it is high above the ground and is not really going to be impacting air quality. And we can see that here on the surface smoke forecast. So surface smoke in western Washington, light concentrations bringing that moderate air quality. But look at parts of eastern Washington where you have these fire plumes over the next couple days in the Cascades and northeast Washington and Canada, just bringing really heavy smoke across the region Thursday and then into Friday across eastern Washington. That smoke moves around a little bit, just draping across the area with hazardous air quality at times. But as we go through Friday into Saturday, we clear out on here in western Washington because of some of this onshore flow. But that just kind of keeps the smoke sitting in eastern Washington while we have good air quality but a ton of smoke aloft. So it's going to be some interesting contrasts across the state over the next few days. If you know folks in eastern Washington who have any respiratory problems, they need to be very prepared for some pretty bad air quality over the next few days here with all of these fires around the area. Taking a look at high temperatures, this is a national blend of models looking at Friday's high temperatures here, and you can see highs potentially in the upper 70s to mid 80s around western Washington, but depending on how much smoke there is, you can knock 3 to 5 degrees off these temperatures at times. Southwest Washington in the upper 80s, maybe near 90, and then the coast in the upper 60s to low 70s. But take a look at Saturday. We cool down a few degrees with some of that storm activity moving in, potential thunderstorms there. But with how much smoke is aloft, we could, instead of having highs in the mid to upper 70s, they may be in the low to mid 70s, and maybe not even that, just because of how the smoke inhibits it from warming up across the area. So we have to watch that closely for Saturday and then for Sunday as well, before maybe a potential cool down into Monday and Tuesday. But again, a little bit uncertain on that forecast, so stay tuned for more information on it. And then the European model ensemble forecast, you can see the average here on the ensemble is up toward an inch of rain for SeaTac over the next couple weeks. But you can see the individual ensemble members, these gray lines, have a ton of uncertainty between some higher end forecasts with a couple inches of rain over the next few weeks and some lower end forecasts with less than a half inch. So we really have to watch how this trends over the next couple weeks here to see if we're going to get drier or if we're going to get wetter, and if we do get wetter, if it's going to have a major impact on bringing down the fires. Just wanted to point this out as well. 9 days left here on the 25% off sale on the Western Washington Weather merch store. And we do, in addition to shirts that I've been showing recently, we got cups and mugs and stuff like that. Pretty cool stuff here on the store. So go check that out. Link is in the description below. And thank you all very much for watching here. Be sure to subscribe to Western Washington Weather. You can also leave a super comment, which is what allows you to donate to the channel to help me elevate the product here of Western Washington Weather even more. Thank you to those of you who have donated already. That is very, very nice. I really appreciate your generosity. And be sure to follow the Western Washington Weather Facebook group and follow me on Blue Sky and Twitter as well. The links to all of these are in the description below, along with the merch store. So thank you all very much for watching, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.